Hi, my name is Thomas and I'm a philosopher. I come from Denmark. I want to present to you my map of the world. Normally, human beings experience the world or the universe as something solid. Okay? Our bodies are solid, and the solidity of our bodies is reflected in the way we experience the universe as something solid. However, we do know simultaneously that although we experience the world as something solid, the world is in flux. It is changing. We are changing and the world is changing. This creates a problem because in contrast to that which is solid, which is because it is solid, then that which changes is not, because that which changes cannot be itself or is not itself. So this provokes or motivates a fundamental question, namely the question, how come I experience change as something solid? How come it is possible for me to experience that which changes the universe and my own body included as something solid and present? I experience something which is not, because it is changing, as something which is, because it is solid. So, simultaneously, I can feel my body as solidity while knowing that it's actually not there, because it's constantly in flux, and hence it is never the same, and hence it is absent. So, a world map or a map of the world is ordinarily a map where we see countries, we see maybe the Earth, we maybe even see parts of the solar system or the galaxies, etc., etc. So the idea is that the map is reflecting the universe as solidity. Tangible, observable objects that we can measure size, weight, position, etc., etc. In order to integrate our experience of the world as change also, I have tried to design a map which, rather than focusing on the solidity of the world, focuses on the change aspect of the world. So the idea of this map is not to say that science is wrong, that our politicians are wrong necessarily, or that people who believe in God are wrong. It is simply to say that there is another possible position available in the way we perceive the world, namely a position that has its offspring in the idea of the world as something changing. So it's basically a question of changing the priority from experiencing the world as something solid into experiencing the world as something which is changing, and then discovering how the universe opens up or closes down if I experience it as change. Why is this important, and why do I want to promote this idea? I want to promote this idea because I'm under the impression that the way we create solutions to our problems as human beings on a local scale, but also on a global scale, does not seem to work according to plan. We are not capable really of stopping wars, of stopping pollution, of stopping all the actions we take that produce negative consequences for not necessarily all of us, some of us, and definitely for the globe as an ecological system. So the idea is, as I said, not necessarily to question all the ideas about the world that already exist, but simply to offer an additional perspective that prioritizes change over solidity. So, this is the map of the world as change. So, let me try to explain to you how this works. As I said in the beginning, normally human beings experience solidity. Solidity can be expressed in this equation, or in an equation like this. Solidity is that which equals itself. Now, if the table is solid, then the table is there. Then the table is itself. If I see the world as the world is, I experience the world as it is, then x equals x. Okay. the things that are present equals themselves. This is a reflection of the way the body experiences the world. In order for me to be body, then the universe has to express itself as something that equals my experience. So in a sense you could say that the universe equals me as a mind that is embedded in my body, which I call the body mind. And the body mind again actually equals the universe, because the universe and the body mind are mutually amplifying, entangled properties. So in a way we can say that the universe as we know it is represented in this part of the map. Meaning that in this part of the map the body defines the way I experience. It is a sensory-based experience, and this experience leads me to an experience of presence. The things are there and the things equals themselves. It leads to solidity because that which is solid, and it leads to the possibility of measurement, which means if that which is itself, then I will be able to measure it and to some degree produce a description of the object that matches the object. However, there is a problem related to this state, which is the last word in this line up here, which is that something which is must by definition also be in stasis. Okay, I'll just close the window just a moment. This idea, yes, okay, nothing happened. It was just a cardboard tube that fell over. Now, the idea about stasis. If something is, it cannot be divided from or taken away from the totality to which it belongs. Okay, you can't say, I'm now going to take this particular object and then I'm going to isolate it from everything else. It's simply not possible. The object is always embedded in a totality. Now, let's say that this object really is really present, it is not changing, it is completely solid. Then the consequence of this idea will be that everything is solid and everything is in stasis, which is meaningful in logic, because if everything is present, then how is movement possible? If everything is there, then you cannot really move anywhere, because wherever you move, you are already there. So in an abstract sense, but also in a very concrete sense, the idea of present solidity and the possibility of measurement leads to a destructive conclusion that says that if that is true, then there must be complete stasis. Everything stands, so to say, in its own way and cannot move. It must be still. Now, this leads to the conclusion that being in the body and allowing the body alone to define the properties of reality, in a sense, changes the trajectories of our lives into a predestined trajectory, or into what we call a destiny. Because if everything is laid out beforehand as something that is completely solid and cannot change, then you can say all we can do is basically sort of follow a given path, because nothing can really change in this particular paradigm. So, to put it roughly, being that which equals itself as we normally experience ourselves is simply not possible. Because if we were this, then no change would really occur. So, since we do experience change, then we can conclude that we must somehow be something else than this. That this is only an apparent feature of reality that matches the manifestation of our body. So in a way, one could say that we are in change. We are not solid, but we are very, very close to solidity. We are as close to solidity as we can possibly be, because this is the perfect state for that which is, namely the totality, that which really is solid, that we know must be, because we are experiencing something that cannot be divided from the totality. Then we know there is something, and this totality cannot experience itself because it is in stasis, so it must experience itself with the use of other means, and those means, the only possible mean, is change, because that which changes is that which is not there, and that which is not there does not contradict that which is there. So, what I'm saying is that we are very, very close to being in a world that is solid, but we are actually in a world that is completely fluid, because this is the way that that which is solid experiences itself without contradicting itself. So this map, what it tries to do is it says that this experience here is not possible. We are not that which is equals itself. Rather, we are in a space where nothing equals itself, but there is a scale on which we are out here presently, because we are very close to the event horizon of everything, where everything is solid. We are not in everything, because then we wouldn't be able to experience ourselves, but we are very close because we experience everything as near solid. Okay, we know it's changing, but it appears solid to us. What is important to understand is that this scale is not isolated here. This scale is a scale that goes all the way to the other side, to the event horizon of nothing, which in this sense equals everything, because it is simply that which is outside of the border of our potential for experience. When we experience, we can only experience something that is neither nothing or nor everything. Okay, we have to be within this particular, within the boundaries of this scale. And right now we are over here. But the problem is that we act as if this experience, being that x equals x, that the world is solid, we act as this is a true analysis of the state of the world, which is, as I've been talking about, wrong, since we know that the world is always in flux, and hence is not present in the form that we measure, in the form that we experience as present and solidity. So the important part, or the importance of this map, is expressed in the idea that we need, in order to get the full scale, or the full potential of our problem-solving abilities, and our abilities to be creative in the way we structure the universe, we will have to take it a little bit further, and we will have to learn how the universe is organized in flux and change. And this is where I'm about to present my idea about something I call the lost genius. Note that I call the part of the mind that is experiencing the universe and producing the universe as something solid, I call it body mind. This is body mind. Now, there's another part of the mind that I call the lost genius. Because we are in the body, and the body mind rules, so to speak, we are not aware, and we can only very difficultly become aware of the fact that our minds are actually really not solid and are really not related to the body as solidity. Okay? It is of course related to the body as a position, but it's not related to the body as solidity. So the vast majority of our mind is actually not embedded in the body. It's floating around the body, and it's floating freely in a space that does not have time-like features and space-like features as we know it from relativity, say, or Newtonian mechanics, or even quantum mechanics. So the lost genius is actually the part of our mind that is constantly reinventing the universe so that it appears to be coherent to what appears to be the body. In a sense, we have to imagine that the body is simply a manifestation in flux as a probability that is created by the totality in order for the totality to experience itself without contradiction. So, the body is a manifestation which has an experience that is ordered by the mind, or by a mind that is not embedded in the body, but is actually outside of the body, and is, so to speak, constantly creating perspectives that is confirming the idea of the body as a body. So basically what I'm proposing and claiming is that you are an empty shell, in a sense, which is only existing because of a relationship with the universe, and that the real you is out there, and you don't identify yourself with this you, and is constantly organizing the universe so that you can experience it as coherently. Okay. So, I don't know if I've succeeded, but I've tried to constitute two different mindsets, a mindset of the body mind, and a mindset that is universally or omnipotent, you could say, which I call the lost genius because it is lost. It's a genius because it's creative, it can recreate the universe constantly, but it is also lost to the body mind. So, these two states or properties are defined by these two equations, and they're also defined by the words of linguistic expressions change, which is that the lost genius promotes, and experience, which equals solidity, because in order to experience something, it must be solid, which is the way of the body mind. So, therefore, we call this equation the equation of change experience. Now, as you can see, the idea is actually that these two equations actually equals actually the event horizons of everything and the event horizons of nothing. So in a sense, they should be moved outside here, and so that this inside, this map is what's inside. It's the equality sign. We must always be in between those two states in order to exist as a probability that experiences the totality as change, so that it doesn't contradict the totality as stasis. Now, in the middle of the map, it says your name is the mind state variable. And this is because this system claims that all there is are perspectives produced by the lost genius. And that these perspectives, the only true knowledge we can have about the system is that we are a position on this scale. Okay? So this is the only true knowledge we can have, is that we are a position on this scale. We cannot even have true knowledge about exactly where we are on the scale, but we can determine the position somehow according to the mix, you could say, of solidity and change. So right now, most of you, including me, I am in a mix that is right over here on the event horizon of everything, together with nearly everybody else, all other human beings, because we generally experience the world as solid. Okay? But the problem with this state is that it's biased, as you can see. There's this huge scale of possible positions, and the bias is all over here, so there's not an equilibrium in the system. And this is this lack of equilibrium that creates, I believe, many of the problems of human beings on Earth. Because we are simply not capable of accessing the totality of the potentiality of the system. The good thing and the good news is that we are, in a sense, already out here because of the lost genius. Because the lost genius, in order for the lost genius to create perspectives to us, to create the universe that we experience, the lost genius has access to the complete system. So now, what this map will help us do is to come closer to the lost genius, to build a bridge between our biased position out here and the rest of the system. How is this done? Well, that's a complicated process. Part one is, of course, what I'm doing right here, presenting it to you. A second and important part of it is remembering what I said in the beginning. The question, how come it is possible to experience change as something solid? This question in itself pushes us further into the system, because it requires from us that we give up thinking about the world as something solid and rather start thinking about it as something that changes, which appears to be solid to us, because we are in this specific manifestation, the body, that requires solidity to confirm its own existence. So, what we need is to ask this question: how come it is possible to experience changes as solidity? Because in trying to answer that question, we will begin to move into this system, and we will begin to discover that we experience the change as solidity because of two things. Because we are that which the body is the perfect medium for experiencing the totality non-contradictively, so that it can confirm that it actually is. Okay? And secondly, okay, let's see. Secondly, okay, you have to rewind the tape because I don't remember what I said, why it was first and second. But I can say this much, that apart from that, of course, and then there is the lost genius. And the lost genius is that which we want to access. And this is a part of us, where as long as I identify myself as the body alone, I cannot have access to the lost genius. Okay? Because the lost genius simply is not compatible with solidity. The lost genius is working in a field of complete probability, and so the lost genius, in a sense, is working for you, but since you don't know that you are in flux, you cannot identify yourself with the lost genius. Hence the question: how come I experience solidity, change as solidity? Okay, so what you have to do is you have to start thinking like this: is it really possible? Is it really possible that I, little me, can stand here in the middle of the universe in a completely stable, as a completely stable property or completely stable identity, that I can be in the middle of this incredible amount of energy, and then I'm just here and everything is working fine, and I'm just pushing it around like that, you know. Every time I move, in a sense, the universe in its totality moves, and it's just happening like that. Is that really possible? Well, I would say logically, no, it's not possible. It really can't happen. So, this type of questions into reality will push you further and closer to your lost genius, and eventually you will reach a point where you are capable of leaving your extremely biased state on the horizon, on the event horizon of everything, and begin to move in and understand reality as something in flux and something that is ordered by lost geniuses. My lost geniuses, your lost geniuses, and everybody else's lost geniuses. So there is a mind field, you would say, this is a mind field of a large number of minds that are constantly interacting and organizing the world, so that all of our body manifestations experience the world as coherent. And the further we move in on this scale, the less dependent will we be in our cognitive systems on factors like time, space, and all the dimensions as we know them. Because none of those are present. All that is present, okay, all that is present is a probability field that does not equal the totality, and that does not equal that which is not itself. It is somewhere in between always. It is a mix of that which is not itself and the totality. Okay, and that's what we call a probability field. And this is what we are. We are a probability field. And probability fields, although they are experienced most coherently as through a body mind, and and we are body mind because this is the perfect medium for experience. We need to be aware that this is only a very, very, very microscopically small part of the possible ways you can experience the probability field. It is so much larger, it's infinitely larger than the one major position or mind state cluster that we are in, most of us. And we really need to let go of this bias and begin to explore the probability field, which really is the universe, what we normally call the universe, in order to find new perspectives on the problems that we are encountering. Because being that which experiences the totality as change in order for the totality to confirm itself without contradicting its state as in stasis, is a privilege, it's enormous privilege, and it contains an abundance of possibilities, but all these possibilities will be lost to us if we stay in this position. Because eventually we will deteriorate, because the position of solidity cannot change, it is a fixed position, and it can only, in a way, self-destruct, because it is not possible. So the more we lean on solidity, the smaller are our chances to actually maintain our positions as the privileged ones who are experiencing the totality as change. So, but we are in a position where we can change that, and we can change that because solidity doesn't exist. So change is possible, but we need to begin to organize ourselves much more as that which is not itself in change. We need to become our lost geniuses. We need to bring the lost geniuses home so that the body and the lost geniuses are working together rather than being two separate units, and rather than having a body that actually doesn't know that it is being organized by the lost genius, and having a lost genius that cannot really help because it is detached from the body, so it doesn't really know and understand what is going on in the mind state cluster over here. The lost genius, of course, gets information from the whole field and is capable of creating coherent life trajectories for the bodies over here, but generally speaking, you have to imagine that the lost genius is making a lot of guesswork in order to provide the body with the necessary context. So the moment that we begin to communicate with the lost genius or build a bridge so that the lost genius and the body can interact more fluently, what will happen is that the universe will simply change. Everything will change because we will begin to experience that that which we understood beforehand as matter is actually fluent and is actually manageable in ways that are hard to imagine, of course, when we are out here. But you can actually, in a way, the probability field can influence itself depending on where the bias of the mind state cluster is. So right now the bias is over here, but if we're capable of moving the bias, we will change the perspective, and so new opportunities will arise in the way we solve our problems. And even the problems will potentially just simply dissolve because we will change the universe according to our new positions. So I know this was an extremely quick walkover, and I'm not quite sure that I got everything covered. I didn't get everything covered, but hopefully you understand that this is a powerful map because it actually puts itself right there next to the map of the world as countries and a globe in a universe. This is, in a sense, a map of the world that is just equally as valid as the map of the world with the countries, but it's just a world that is described as change rather than as solidity. This world cannot be measured because it is always in flux. This world over here, the normal world map, you can measure. But we need to integrate these two different positions if we want to create sustainable solutions for ourselves and for humankind. Okay, this was a test. Okay, this is the first time I'm doing this. I apologize for the state of my voice. I've been a little bit sick last week. But hopefully, somehow, I conveyed bits and pieces of my theory that will help you in reflecting upon the priority you are making in your way of accessing the world. Namely, am I considering the world as something solid, or am I trying to integrate the fact that the world really is flowing, and that solidity is just an extreme aspect of this flow, or this fluidity, and that I can never pass the event horizon of everything and become really solid, because in that case I would be stasis, and I'm not. Okay, my experience of the something I experience is an experience of change. So no matter how solid I feel, I know that I'm actually changing, and hence I must be somewhere in this map, somewhere on this scale, in which the only thing that is true is the fact that my name is defining a position on the mind state scale. Okay, I apologize for all the beginner's mistakes I made in this presentation, but it is necessary for me, of course, to train myself, so please feel free to give me feedback, write me, call me, send me thoughts. Okay. Thank you for listening that far, and I'll be back with more presentations where we'll try to get into the details. Thank you, thank you.